Okay, so in chapter 23, we start to see how clever Paul is, and he's maybe even just a little bit conniving, which I find a little bit fascinating. Okay, so a little bit of background that you're probably aware of, but Jerusalem was under the control of Rome. Okay, so there were Roman rulers in Jerusalem and in these other, parts of Israel, and they're ultimately in charge, but they're very aware that the Jews have this huge system of law and that most of it is based on their religion, and they just do their best to stay out of it as much as possible. They're going to make sure that Roman rule and law is followed. But in terms of what is making the Jews angry from one day to the next about their very specific religious laws, they just say, that's not my problem, right? Well, Paul knows this, okay? So he is going to use all of this to his knowledge, or he's going to use all of this in his favor, basically. And so they had arrested Paul. The commander finds out he's a Roman citizen, but he also is just really trying to figure out why everyone hates him so much. So he sends him to the Sanhedrin, where kind of the Jewish court of figuring out what's going on. And the Pharisees are there and the Sadducees are there. And Paul plays them against one another, right? So when he's in front of them, he says, well, it's just that I believe in the resurrection from the dead, because the Pharisees believe that, and they believe in visions and angels and spirits, but the Sadducees don't believe that. So by Paul saying, I'll tell you what this is really about. It's about my particular beliefs because I was born a Pharisee. So that gets the Sadducees and the Pharisees fighting among themselves and just creates so much chaos that in the end, the Roman commander just has to stop the whole thing and basically ends up sending Paul a little further up the chain, right? He's like, this is beyond my pay scale. I'm going to send this problem away because it's too complicated. It seems very, very caught up in these Jewish laws that I have nothing to do with. So I'm just going to send Paul on. And then a fascinating thing that happens is it says that the Lord stood near Paul and told him, take courage, as you have testified about me in Jerusalem, so you must also testify in Rome. And that's in verse 11 of Acts chapter 23. So it seems like Jesus appears to Paul and tells him, look, you're not going to die here. And so that's kind of a relief for Paul because he was ready to die. He thought he might die in Jerusalem. He expected to probably die in Jerusalem, but he learns that he's going to go on to Rome. And specifically, he tells him, just like you testified about me in Jerusalem, you will testify about me in Rome. So God is letting Paul suffer because when he's arrested, he testifies to Jesus. And he's allowing him to suffer in order that the kingdom can be spread and that many others can be saved. And then I just want to talk about the funniest thing that happens in Acts chapter 23, right at the beginning. Paul says, hey, I have fulfilled my duty to God in all good conscience. And then the high priest is like, punch him in the mouth. And I don't know, it just made me laugh because I could just totally imagine being in a court and someone says something so self-righteous and what you perceive as not true, and that you have the authority to just be like, whoa, punch him in the mouth. That's totally a lie. Punch him in the mouth. I don't know. That's my weird sense of humor. That cracks me up because we'd never see that happen. And certainly there it was an outrage too, and they said that's breaking the law. You can't order someone to be punched in the mouth just for something they said in the middle of trying to figure out what's going on. Okay, so I sidetracked us there because I found that amusing. I felt like it would make a really good scene in a movie, so I had to comment on it. Okay, tell me what interested you about Acts chapter 23, and we'll talk about that in the comments and read Acts chapter 24, getting ready for us tomorrow.